Hello viewers, welcome to Janshakti Network. The tariff tussle between the United States and the People's Republic of China stand as one of the most contentious episodes in recent period regarding international trade and the recalibration of geopolitical alliances. The conflict, often referred to as the US-China trade war, began in 2018. There was a long-standing concern in Washington over China's trade practices. Technology transfer and state-led model of economic development is basis of China's trade policy. The Trump administration initiated a series of punitive tariffs on Chinese goods, targeting initially $34 billion worth of imports, with subsequent tranches rising the total to over $360 billion. Such measures aimed ostensibly to curb China's alleged unfair trade practices and reducing the US trade deficit. US decisions soon met with swift and reciprocal tariffs by Beijing on American exports, particularly in agriculture, automobiles, and chemicals. It is notable that these sectors are crucial to President Trump's political base. The Trump administration accused China of engaging in economic aggression and cyber espionage, citing practices that allegedly enabled the rise of Chinese tech giants. The imposition of tariffs became, therefore, a lever of pressure within a broader framework of economic decoupling. Meanwhile, China maintained that the USA was attempting to contain its natural and peaceful rise and flout the norms of the multilateral trading system embodied in the World Trade Organization. Despite various high-level dialogues and attempts at stabilization, the tension remains unsolved. Issues such as subsidies to state-owned enterprises, restriction on foreign companies operating in China, data localization requirements, and national security concerns tied to technology remain potent source of friction. Furthermore, the tariff war has not significantly narrowed the US trade deficit with China, nor has it led to a substantial reshoring of manufacturing. Instead, it has contributed to a realignment of global trades. In essence, the tariff tussle has morphed into a more enduring strategic rivalry with economic instruments serving as tool of national power. As both nations was moving along the complex terrain of interdependence and competitiveness, the world watches with bated breath. For the contour of this bilateral relationship shall indubitably shape the geopolitical architecture of international trade and diplomacy for decades in future. India's position within global supply chains was complicated rather than clarified by the tariffs conflict. Contrary to optimistic projections, India did not see a significant migration of manufacturing activity away from China, partly due to present structural bottlenecks such as inadequate infrastructure, regulatory complexity, and difficulties regarding the land question. As a result, India struggled to absorb the supply chain realignments that benefited other countries such as Vietnam, Malaysia, and Mexico. Chinese manufacturers facing a loss of their American market share due to tariffs began offloading surplus goods at competitive prices in third country markets that includes India too. This influx of cheaper Chinese goods intensified pressure on Indian domestic manufacturers, particularly in segments like electronical appliances, industrial machinery, and consumer electronics. Indian farm already operates on thin profit margin and with limited technological capacity. The resultant strength rendered several small and medium enterprises vulnerable to financial distress while simultaneously widening India's trade deficit with China. Equally troubling were the knock-on effects in agriculture. As China imposed retaliatory tariffs on American soybeans and other commodities, global agricultural trade flows were disrupted. This led to an oversupply in global markets, which suppresses prices and indirectly affected Indian agricultural exports, particularly in oilseed and pulses. Meanwhile, rising cost of imported inputs, including machinery and electronic components sourced from China, inflated production cost for Indian businesses, undermining their competitiveness both at home and abroad. Indian pharmaceutical companies heavily reliant on Chinese active pharmaceutical ingredients. It will also face cost pressure as Chinese suppliers redirected inventories and adjusted pricing structures in response to American sanctions. Such developments laid bare India's strategic vulnerabilities in critical supply chains and exposed the need for self-reliance and diversification. There are those needs that cannot be fulfilled overnight. As a nation traditionally aligned with multilateralism and open trade, India have to walk on a tightrope, avoiding alignment too closely with either superpower while safeguarding its own economic interests. This caution posture, though diplomatically prudent, often resulted into policy hesitancy, depriving Indian businesses of the assertive state support needed to seize fleeting global opportunities. Nonetheless, recently, US President Donald Trump advised Apple CEO to stop the manufacturing units in India. India can take care of themselves, are his words as per sources. A popular and state-backed belief in India regarding America and Mr. Trump is that they are friends. It seems they are not that interested. The roots of the tariff tussle between the United States and China, while culminating in the overt trade war of the late 2010s, lie deep within the annals of the late 20th century economic transformation and global integration. The genesis of this complex rivalry can be traced to China's sweeping economic reforms initiated under the leadership of Deng Xiaoping in the late 1970s, when the country embarked upon a path of opening up to foreign investments and liberalizing its hitherto closed, state-controlled economy. This transformation, which included the establishment of special economic zones and market-friendly policies, enabled China to emerge as a manufacturing powerhouse, attracting multinational corporations with its vast labor pool and low production costs. The United States, eager to integrate China into the global economy and foster liberal democratic norms through economic engagement, supported its accessions to the World Trade Organization in 2001, a landmark event that marked China's formal integration into the rules-based international trading system. In the years that followed, bilateral trade between the two nations expanded exponentially. China became the United States' largest trading partner in goods, and American consumers reaped the benefit of low-cost imports, while US companies gained access to China's burgeoning market of over 1 billion people. Beneath the apparent mutual gain, tensions simmered. Washington grew increasingly uneasy over China's state-controlled trade practices, including persistent state subsidies, currency manipulation, restricted market access for foreign firms, and most significantly, the widening of intellectual property and coerced technology transfers. The historical narrative will be incomplete without acknowledging the deeper strategic rivalry that had been unfolding in parallel. China's economic ascents evolved into technological and strategic ambitions. Initiatives like Made in China 2025 aimed at achieving global leadership in high-tech industries. US grew increasingly wary of Beijing's challenge to its long-standing economic and geopolitical primacy. Consequently, tariffs came to be viewed not merely as tools of economic rebalancing but as instruments of strategic containment too. American measures increasingly targeted high-tech sectors such as semiconductors and telecommunications, while on the other hand tightening exports, controls and investment restriction on Chinese firms deemed a security risk. On May 12, 2025, United States and China agreed on a 90-day suspension on their escalating tariff war, marking a significant de-escalation in their protected trade conflict. This temporary truce, brokered during high-level negotiation in Geneva, entails the US reducing tariffs on Chinese goods from 145% to 30%, while China lowered its tariffs on US imports from 125% to 10%. Both nations also committed to halting the imposition of new non-tariff trade barriers to such as export controls and backlisting of companies for the agreed duration. The agreement is seen as a strategic pause, providing both the countries with an opportunity to negotiate a more comprehensive and lasting resolution to their trade disputes. Key issues on the table include forced technology transfers, intellectual property protection, cyber intrusion, and market access in services and agricultural. China has agreed to purchase a very substantial amount of agricultural, energy and industrial products from the US with respect to the bilateral trade imbalance. The truce has had immediate economic repercussions. Shipping rates from China to the US have surged as importers expedite shipment to capitalize on the temporary tariff reductions. Rates to the US West Coast have increased approximately 8% in 1 week, with projection of further hike ups to 50% in the coming days. The US freight industry anticipates a rebound with increased demand expected during the back-to-school session. However, the truce is not without challenges. China has expressed that the 90-day period is certainly insufficient. They are in favor of more conducive and longer time frame to reaching a comprehensive agreement. While the 90-day suspension of tariffs between the US and China represents a significant step towards de-escalation, the path to a lasting resolution remains fraught with complexities. The coming months will be crucial in determining whether both nations can transform the mutually agreed ceasefire into a sustainable and mutually beneficial trade relationship. Hence, our sincere stance should keep in mind that the world is not such an innocent place as we used to think. An intended joke indeed. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to stay updated with the latest incidents. Hit the bell icon to never miss an update. We will see you next time with more news that matters. Stay informed, stay safe.